moving on, I think the last item we had here was Fable 5 and
Oh man.
Alex Karp, recent happenings in AI, which we both work with very closely for better or worse.
Yes.
Did you watch his full unhinged interview?
I did, and unhinged is the right word. It was hard to track, hard to follow,
Mm-hmm.
and I believe you made a quite damning accusation, and I would like you to. I would just want to give you the floor because I thought it was. I think you might be right.
Yeah, I think he is by far the worst business executive, if not the worst person, period, as far as like a communicator goes that I've ever seen on television. I
Yes,
mean, I
and I would
watched
just
I watched Elon
no,
Musk say, "Go fuck yourself," live on CNBC, and he is a way better communicator than this guy. He's
that
constantly
was pretty
interrupting
insane.
anyone trying to ask him a question. His thoughts were greatly lacking coherence.
Yes,
He needs someone to try to coach him in how to speak. Although you said this may be part of the plan. They're like, we want him to speak like this on CNBC.
I have heard that before from people who are somewhat maybe more informed on this. That's actually part of a persona that is kind of intentionally designed to appear the way it does. I I I don't know, man.
Well, regardless, I don't know if this is the main thing you gleaned from that conversation, but the thing I found most interesting was his assertions about like the need for open source models and the need for firms to have control of their data. And what I mean by that is like Anthropic and OpenAI are not consuming or having access to all of the data that you're using these LLMs on. Uh,
Yeah.
I think that was my most important
I
takeaway
think
from
that
that
was
rambling conversation.
I think that was one of the main takeaways. I think there was also kind of this idea of how like okay, like even this idea of like what do you even own? And so like this idea of like okay, the government. So we the reason we started talking about Fable 5 was a handful of weeks ago the federal government basically just came in and said like, hey, this is so hot to handle, you can't even run this at all, shut it down, just shut it down. And okay, well there's like workflows that have already been spun up that are allow like like this is a critical part of them. So okay, if you've already at the fast paced business level that the United States and most of the modern economy is running at, and you have these kind of like switch offs, like that switch off can very quickly become more of a like not black swan because you could see it coming, but like it becomes more of a liability than the benefits of the savings of these newer technologies. So if you are in fact like going to be using AI in this way, like you need to have like an AI supply chain, and it needs to be like dialed in, and it needs to be fully secure from power outlet through hardware, through models, through inference, applications, all the way up into your traditional stacks of data that you might have somewhere. Because these companies are not forthcoming. They are run
Mm-hmm.
by very dubious people. They are being regulated in ways that are not at all clear, and everyone's just shooting from the hip, you know. So I think that was another takeaway, if that makes sense.
That does make sense. Yeah, because I remember him saying, no, I can't remember exactly what he said, but basically what you said, like you need to have the this was in reference to like you were saying the critical nature of these AI models and the data that they process, the data centers they run on, was in reference to Palantir's use in military operations. So
Mm-hmm.
very critical, right? Uh, I agree with him honestly. Uh, you can't have the same way that that you can't have a business if AWS is just going to fail on you, which it does. And when it does, it's bad and it's
Yep.
shocking and it's shameful, honestly. Like I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if you remember when Coinbase had their big outage. I think if I remember correctly, they didn't even have any server instances outside of like to Virginia, U.S. Virginia, whatever. When that went down, there was no backup, and Coinbase just went down globally. Regardless, when AI is that mission critical, I mean, it's very similar. Like, you just can't have an outage. You can't have someone come and hack all your data. Like, let's say Anthropic is hacked and someone gets all of your chat logs. I mean, talk about sensitive information, especially now that those chat logs can be read very easily by another model, can just go through and extract important information. Like, I get worried about my information, and I keep out, no SSN, none of that goes into my conversations with Claude. I talk to Claude about a lot of stuff, even just some of the conversations I have with it about like books. I talk to it about history, books that I read. I mean, that's very personal information. If someone had all of that, who knows what they could do? I mean, that for a business, it's even more extreme. I totally understand all of the privacy concerns, all of the performance concerns. Like, this needs to be on always, and a failure being worse than an unreliable, more effective model. So I agree with all of that. And I think that you already see this kind of happening. I don't know if you saw Bridgewater, the hedge fund. They recently trained their own model. I think it was they fine-tuned GLM 5 point whatever
5.2.
5.2, yeah, to read financial articles. Like, they were like, figure out what financial information, financial articles, financial information is relevant to us and what's irrelevant. And the fine-tuned model was like an order of magnitude cheaper than the frontier lab models and more effective, right? So now suddenly you have an open source model that you can host yourself, that you fine-tuned, that is way cheaper. I don't see how most people who have the resources don't go in that direction. I mean, it just seems like the obvious way to go. And there's an other element to this that about just the stability of the labs, OpenAI and Anthropic in general, that I'll get into later, but I want to give you a chance to talk here before I keep ranting for too long.
No, I appreciate that. No, I completely agree with you. I did not hear about the Bridgewater particular case that you mentioned, but I can just tell you from other cases that I am privy to. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some advantages there. Now, the question is are those better than still the most latest edition of Claude, Claude Fable 5 or whatever running, or ChatGPT 5.6? Like, I don't know. Is there always going to be a case for bleeding edge models? I'm not sure. Maybe at some point they get so good that you can just run these like downstream ones and it's like good for almost everything, because most people just aren't that smart. Do you know what I mean? But I don't know. I'm not sure where it actually goes when it comes to these models long-term wise, architecturally. There's just some fundamental limits. And I think a lot of these like benchmarks that they keep talking about, how they actually keep getting smarter and smarter and smarter, I'm not actually sure that's true in a lot of ways. So I guess I would just say that. I think my comments on this are like all more on the government overreach and yet again another market intervention that's like winners and losers. So I could go down that road, but
I think the government end and the model capability end are intertwined, because there is a situation where the models get so good at something. The claim with Mythos was discovering cybersecurity vulnerabilities that they need some kind of controls. That makes sense to me. That rationale makes sense to me. You don't want just anyone to have something that can find cybersecurity exploits in all extant software. I don't know how true that was, but it is plausible, right? Even if they were overblowing that for Mythos, it is plausible that something else comes out that is able to do that. My operating assumption with AI right now is that even though LLMs may reach a plateau in capability, I think that we're going to end up with some hybrid architectures that some of which may yield drastically increased performance. I know, I think like a few weeks ago, we spoke about Jan LeCun. I think that's how you say his name. being like LLMs, just generative AI are a dead end. We need world models. We need some kind of internal cognitive state to these models that they can reason off of and update.
Right.
There's a situation where there's some kind of breakthrough in that can be done in a stable manner, that is financially and energy efficient. If you pair it with an LLM, it can basically give you a much smarter model that's much less likely to hallucinate, capable of longer horizon complicated tasks. I just think that we're kind of at this point where oil was at in the late 19th century, where you have this process where you're extracting crude oil and refining it, and gasoline is a waste product, and you're obsessed with kerosene. You never know when you're going to wake up and be like, oh my God, like suddenly, all of a sudden, we have all this gasoline and the market has changed completely. I think that we're going to see dramatic inflection points with AI like that. And it may not necessarily come from these frontier labs, Anthropic and OpenAI. I mean, who knows what's going to happen with them? They may plateau and just start eking out like logarithmic increases in capability with their frontier models. They may invent their own new architectures that cause dramatic increases in performance. They may run out of money and just go out of business. Yeah. I have no idea. This is a very hard thing to predict, but I understand that the government is not wrong, in my opinion, in thinking that there's potential for bad things to happen if some of these models get into the wrong hands. A little rambling. Those are some of my
it's all good, man.
I thoughts.
I'm reaching the end of my rope. I'm a little tired, so I'm not as fiery as I was maybe at the beginning of our show. But honestly, I agree with you. But here's where I have a problem with, and this is kind of what I mean, where it's like they're selectively allowing certain people to use these models and certain people not. And I read Anthropic's little post where they're like, Fable 5 is back, and like they're like, well, we work with our partners, including Google and Amazon and Facebook and blah 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 blah, Microsoft, blah blah blah. And it's like, oh, so all the big guys are the only ones that you're letting use these things anyway. I wonder if it had anything to do with the fact that you're just trying to secure their place in the market by only allowing the latest models to be run there. It's like, if I'm a startup of all American citizens with PhDs and we're working there, can we get on the front short list? No. Like, right. Okay. Like, Anthropic specifically writing in their terms of service that you can't use it to train models and all that stuff, and they're going to shadow ban you and all that. Like, that's just where I come to this point of like, all right, well, if the government's going to do this, then like, just be more clear about it. Just be like, hey, this is weapons grade stuff. But the problem is there's no way you can actually contain this because it's out of the bag. It's out of the bag. I mean, you can't, how are you going to contain the training of matrices? It's not happening, man. Too many smart people, too many people in China, too much computer hardware, too easy to assume and assemble, too many open source models out there you can fine tune. It's out of the bag.
Yeah. And to your point, something that seems plausible, like, oh yeah, the models are dangerous, can be used as cover for a classic picking winners and losers. And being like, oh, shake your hand, you shake my hand. Like, we're going to keep all of these competitors off of your back. Because one of the what's the right word? One of the implications to me of rapidly improving models is that smaller companies can eat a lot of market away from these big tech companies and can compete with them very head on with the extra chooch from these models. And that definitely freaks them out. They probably are in a situation where they're like, we don't want small companies being able to compete with us head on. No.
Yeah.
So that's a little shitty of them.
Yeah, but at the same time, man, I mean, these things are just like, okay, ripping out a full stack app that can do some things is not the same thing as building Google's backend, man. Like Claude, I don't care what any of these tools are, man. It is just eons away from building Cloudflare. I just don't care. I don't care if it passes every one of those little benchmarks at 100%. Like there is just a level that like it is not doing that right now.
I'm not even saying that you could one shot building Cloudflare, build Cloudflare, make no mistakes, come back 24 hours later.
Basically.
What I'm saying
that's
is
what
just
they're
like,
saying though. That's the messaging.
I'm saying more that like a small team with those resources could like intentionally and realistically build a product that could compete with a lot of these SaaS companies. With
I
like
think that has happened.
with like a dozen employees versus hundreds of employees, right?
Dude,
that's more of my claim.
I have someone I'm working with right now who we are completely just rewriting our whole HR tool internally. Completely ground up, self-hosted. All the other stuff's gone. We're sick of paying the SaaS people. Get out of here. Your software isn't even that good. So we're just completely rolling our own. And it is engineer of one. Oh, and by the way, I have like 3 other major projects. It's So
that difference is real. And if there's a step change in effectiveness from one of these models, they may want to keep that out of the hands of the wider public that could nip at their heels.
A little bit. I think that that's it.